Hello and welcome to Bookworms, episode 2 of season 3. I am your host, Alex.
And I'm Joe.
How you doing, Joe?
I was doing better until that introduction, Alex.
Boy, way to really just take the steam out of everything. You're just great.
Yeah, I'm a total dick, aren't I? Gotta live up to my reputation.
Yeah, I've heard that about you. It's yeah.
Just being a big dick like usual.
Yeah, big swinging dick.
Yeah. Anyways.
There's a lot of dicks in this book, so it works out. Mostly the main characters.
Yeah, mostly the main characters, and he's got a massive one. Let me tell you.
And he likes to put it in the ladies.
Yes, he does. So this was my pick this month, and as much as Alex would love this to have been a smut book, it is not. It is a military science fiction book, a subgenre that is quite popular among the uber nerds that I kind of stumbled upon. And back in college, I read this book, and I thought it was amazing. I was like, who writes these kinds of books? This is awesome. Why don't they do more? Only find out much later that a lot of people write. It's like the smut, male version of smut, pretty much. And most of it is absolute slop.
Well, don't worry, listeners. He does give a prostitute a rim job, so it's fine. If you're into that sort of thing.
Alex did get his sex scene, so he's more than happy. It's no inanimate objects, which is a little disappointing for Alex. He does love his pillow talk.
Yeah, what is this human skin contact?
So the book I picked is called Death's Head by David Gunn. It is. So I looked on Goodreads to see when it was published, and it said it was either published in like 1962 or 2006.
Yeah, I checked the copyright. I think it was 2006.
Yeah, I don't know what because I'm looking at it this author would have been a utter genius with predicting technologies of the 2000s if he had written in 62. So I don't know what was up with that, but anyways, so the author's only got 3 books to his credit. This is the first book of his trilogy. I've read the other 2 books. I was going through my Goodreads history, and I rated them pretty high, but my memory of them was pretty bad. This was like the only one I really liked, and I gave it a 4 stars out of 5. And I was really nervous, Alex, that when I read this again, it would be like a lot of our other books that we read back in the college days, that it was going to be an utter disappointment. And while there were scenes that I'm like, okay, yeah, this didn't age well, or this isn't as fun as it was, I enjoyed it overall. About the same.
You mean like when he bangs the feral 15-year-old girl in the beginning of the book?
No.
Okay.
I mean, just enjoying the story, Alex.
Oh, okay, the story. Okay.
You're the one that's into the sex scenes. I'm into the plot and character development.
Oh boy, this one's light on both, but all right.
Or the action scenes. How about that?
There's plenty of those. Okay, yeah. All right. I'm back in.
You're back in. Okay. So this is, as most military science fictions are, very action heavy. So this is, again, basically the smut books for men that are just looking for just a military. I don't even know how to wank job.
Wank job. Yeah, I was explaining to Joe before recording that this is basically a Steven Seagal movie in book form, where it's like, there's better action movies out there, but sometimes you just want to sit down and enjoy some cheesy schlock where the protagonist is like always gonna beat the shit out of the antagonist.
He's a very big Mary Sue character.
Yeah, he's like this untouchable, unstoppable force, and it's like everyone just kind of looks foolish trying to take him on.
Yeah, and I kind of compare it to when we did Death on Demand, where obviously different genres, but it's not supposed to be a deep read. It's just supposed to be a fun beach read where you're just like, I'm just looking to shut my brain off and enjoy a weird, goofy ride, which this book does. I mean, it's exactly as you would expect. You shut your brain off and it's like, okay, let's see where we go with this.
And like Death on Demand, it had a lot of that suspension of disbelief. Like, is a person who owns a bookstore really going to solve this murder mystery? Whereas, like,
yes, they will, Alex. Yes. I mean, who is going to be a better crime solver than a mystery store book owner?
They have all the how to commit murder books right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to the library the other day, actually, and I asked if they had any books on conspiracy theories, and they were like, they're right behind you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were they actually right behind you?
No.
Let down. So yeah, so let's get into the story, Alex, because why not? That's why we're here.
Yeah, that's what we do best.
So this book starts with Sven, a legionnaire who is on the whipping post for doing something stupid and disobeying orders of some sort. And we're getting him, basically getting enough whippings that should kill a normal man. But Sven isn't quite normal. He's only 98% human and 2% something else. But we don't know that right away. But that we do get the beginning of that set up here.
Yes, and he had had an opportunity to escape his whipping, but it would have involved killing some soldiers that were essentially just young adults, young men, and he didn't want to kill children. So
yeah, he's got for someone that's willing to kill just about anything. He does have a weird sense of honor on who he can and can't kill.
Yeah, he kills a lot of people in this book, but yeah, this is where he draws the line, though.
Yeah, don't kill young boys that are barely old enough to become soldiers. Even though he joined as an underage soldier just because he could.
Yeah, so he gets whipped, and they leave him hanging there on the whipping post.
And then these Ferox, this alien creatures, come and attack and massacre everybody on the base, killing all of the Legionnaires except for Sven, who they leave and then come back later, and he realizes he can talk to these creatures who everyone thought were just dumb animals. But they talk through telepathy, and he can only talk to them when he's in a lot of pain. So he finds ways to hurt himself so he can have a conversation with the second in command of this tribe. And it's very Noble Savage-esque in the way these aliens are portrayed, but brutally savage in a way.
Yeah, there's a lot of brutality, and just this whole scene is just to kind of set the story up for nobody is safe in this story, because he builds up a cast of characters and then wipes them all out, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
As they cut Sven down and bring him back to their caves. And
where he meets this feral young girl, as Alex pointed out, who is, the age is not named, but he thinks, because she's not able to speak, but he thinks she's basically a teenager, and they eventually, as the only two humans for months on end that see each other, they eventually form a relationship. And then she's promptly eaten by the Ferox when they run out of food.
Yep, so brutality of that. And his reaction, they don't like it, so they start treating him like he's a pariah in the society, and he knows that his days there are numbered if he stays.
Oh, no, we did kind of skip the very beginning scene, which is the setup of the whole novel of Octo V or Octo 5, who is the basically godlike overlord of Sven's nation, who is saying, hey, to this general of the Death's Head, it almost has very Nazi-esque feel to it, with their top soldiers there. I can't think of the name right now. I'm totally lapsing.
The SS?
Yeah, but there's more specific name. Like the elite of the elite. They had anyways.
Yeah, but he's talking to General Jax.
Yeah.
So basically Octo V is like Hitler, and Jax would be like Joseph Goebbels.
Yeah, and he's saying, go get me this guy and put him through some tests. If he fails, you failed, and you will die. Then we go to Sven on the whipping post. So we immediately assume, hey, Sven is this special guy. But we get a lot of Sven's backstory here early on, and other than being able to heal really fast, you don't really get a sense that why this Octo V would have any idea who this person was, let alone that he's special, because he's just another legionnaire with a bad background of barely surviving. And he does have had a good lieutenant that had kind of schooled him, and we keep getting flashbacks to that, how to be a good soldier, and is actually good advice if you want to be a soldier, a good soldier. So just basically soldiering things like how to always clean your weapon, always be clean shaven, always follow orders with as much hatred as possible, and of your commanders, and being able to talk back without being totally insubordinate. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, all the important stuff.
Yeah, but also how to kill Ferox. But yeah, so as Sven is trying to deal with his girlfriend being eaten, the Ferox say all of a sudden, hey, we need to strengthen our defenses of our cave system because we're about to get attacked. And Sven's like, by who? And how do you know they're coming? And because as far as he knows, they have no technology, and he can So he can barely talk to him. It's basically sending mental pictures back and forth to each other, but because they're so different, a lot is lost in interpretation. But they go back to his base and they basically dismantle a bunch of the buildings and reinforce their cave. And where these elite soldiers then just come through the roof and kill everything anyways.
Yeah, there's a whole thing. I think it's just kind of show like Sven's like military stratagem and stuff like that, his acumen, and then the soldiers come in, they wipe out the Ferox. Like everyone that we've previously met has now been killed except for Sven, and
we meet a whole new cast of characters.
We meet a whole new cast of characters.
We meet a major that hates him, a colonel that hates him, and a sergeant that doesn't really hate him, but doesn't seem to really care if Sven lives or dies. And then Sven meets Jax.
Yeah, we meet General Jax, and they basically, he doesn't really know he's on trial, but like he gives this thing. They find out he can talk to Ferox,
which nobody believes because supposedly these are just dumb creatures.
And then they label him a deserter and sentence him to life on a prison colony.
Yeah,
or they sentence him to execution, but then they change their mind and put him on a prison colony.
And basically just you realize pretty quickly that all this is kind of pre-planned and they're just trying to keep Sven on his toes, not let him know what's going on, and trying to see if they can break him. But because Sven is just so amazing, he's always just one step ahead of them in survivability.
Yeah, he's like armed with a knife and a laser gun essentially, and he has that on his body like at all times. And so they put him on an ice planet called Paradise,
and he meets a whole new cast of characters.
Most notably Debro.
Yeah, a political refugee who tried to start a revolution and lost.
Yeah, she lives there with her like ex-husband, and there's like a tunnel ice of like, it looks like almost like a worm tunnel or something like that, and there's a bunch of encampments.
And which we find out that they're actually worm tunnels.
Yeah, and like resources are scarce because it's an ice planet. There's not a lot of food to go around, so they're constantly at war. There's a lot of push and pull between the encampments, and Sven just goes basically Sherman's March to the Sea. He just he obliterates everybody.
He's basically turns this little group of 15 people into this mega army of prisoners who just take out the bigger gangs, and they within a month basically own the whole section of that prison planet. And when he goes on to the next gang to say, hey, we're gonna knock you out unless if you bow down to us, he meets the major, who's just like, well, I guess you passed the test, and you owe me money because I lost a bet to the colonel about how fast you'd do this.
Yeah, it's like we thought it'd take you 3 months, took you 2 weeks.
And then we abandon that set of characters, but not before Sven promises to Debro that he's going to protect her daughter if he ever runs into her. And we're like, why would that ever happen on this universe of millions of planets that you could wind up on, and you're going to who knows where, only to find out that the next planet he goes to, he's assigned to assassinate her.
Yeah, he's got the plot armor going on. 1 second, I'm going to silence my phone.
Good idea, because that's going to be really annoying, Alex.
Let's do it.
So he goes back to his gang and tries to set them up so that they'll survive the best they can, because they're all going to be stuck on that planet for the rest of their lives. And he kind of turned these people into almost family-like, between the Debro and her ex-husband, who's basically only an ex-husband because she thought that it would give him leniency, and this other guy who's basically a sociopathic killer, but at least he'll be an honorable sociopathic killer and keep Debro and her ex-husband safe as long as he's in charge and he's got all the luxury he could ever imagine. But anyway, so Sven goes off planet, goes to another planet where he's told he's going to assassinate Debro's cousin and her daughter.
Yes, her daughter is getting married to a powerful political person.
Her uncle.
Yeah, her uncle. And
and she's also only like 15.
Yeah, and he's much older. So
yeah, he's like basically old enough to be Debro's father, it almost sounded like.
Yeah, so if that's not a comment on some political ickiness, then
especially these days.
Yeah, exactly.
This book was ahead of its time, Alex.
Indeed. Yeah, see, this guy in 2007 or 8 knew exactly what was in store.
He must have been an early adopter of Pizzagate. A little callback to that.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah, what was going on in 2008? I don't even know.
We were in the middle of a recession, I believe.
Yeah, the housing market collapsed. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. Well, yeah. So he at this point starts banging prostitutes.
And basically,
because that's how you train.
Yeah. He goes to this planet. He gets a what was it called? A six or some sort of weird worm that he had to swallow, and it was going to take root in the middle of his throat, where then he could talk to things telepathically more easily.
Yes, this is easily the most disgusting part of the book. The swallowing of the kip.
A kip, yeah.
Which, picture a slug that you can like hold in your hand like a croissant.
And you had to swallow it whole, as Alex is used to.
Yeah. And then read 20 pages of somebody pissing and shitting and vomiting nonstop.
As his body tries to reject it.
Yeah.
And then the person he's supposed to meet up with is like, dude, what the fuck? You should have been like over this like within a day or two, and it's been 3 weeks.
And then apparently they gave him a bad kip.
Yeah, even though it's not really a bad one, it's just because they didn't realize he's 2% something else, that his body's trying to reject it because it's trying to self-heal as that thing is trying to take hold of him. And apparently he also has more mental powers that we've learned later, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, the kip is primarily used to communicate with his commanding officers while he's conducting his operation.
Yeah. And but we discovered pretty quickly that Octo 5 has decided to contact him personally through this once.
Yes.
And he doesn't really give anything that's worth anything in that little pep talk. Just I'm watching you, so behave.
Yeah, it's both good and kind of makes the book hard to follow. A lot of it's very militaristic in that they don't always tell you what you're fighting for. So yeah, they tell him like, go kill this guy, but it's like, why? And like there's mystery there, but also he's like blindly following orders because he's a good little soldier. And so it's sort of like, yeah, there's a lot of action, a lot of murder, but there's also, it's hard to follow like what is his motivation? Why is he doing this? Yada yada. So, and like especially in the second half of the book when we get into the story proper, it's like makes it really difficult to figure out what's going on in the book.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so he goes. He finally gets the kip settled. He talks to his handler, who's like, I've never heard of a bad kip, but okay. It sounds like, looking around the room, it's just utterly disgusting. It's like, okay, well, I guess it's obviously something going on. Well, we got to go kill this girl and her soon-to-be husband. And pretty quickly, Sven realizes this is the girl he swore to protect for her mother just weeks before, and he's like, shit, I got to figure out what to do here. So he puts it off, but we get to the point where he had a date that he was supposed to do the killing because it was like a World War I style kickoff assassination type thing where you're going to kill the Archibald in the car as he drives by. And
Archibald. The family of Archduke Ferdinand is going to be so upset. Too soon.
And but he doesn't do it, and he comes up with a lame ass excuse that is clearly a lame ass excuse. But then he finds a way to get into the wedding party as a security guard. He watches them get married, but still won't commit the murder because he doesn't want it to be a suicide mission. And instead of following through with being security for the after party, he says, nah, I'm good. Goes back to the hotel, gets his stuff together, his kit together, and then commits a lot of murders.
Yeah, he basically goes in the house and
kills a bunch of security guards that he had been working with just hours before. Finds the governor, assassinates him. Looks like he kills the girl, but he all of a sudden grabs her, runs away with her, finds the girl's bodyguard / double, kills her. And this is one of the major plot holes because he picks up the woman's gun, who then programs itself to be his gun, and we learn that this is an illegal tech, just like the Kip, where it is an AI smart gun with attitude. But you realize this gun shouldn't have missed him because basically you can point it at the ground and shoot something from in space, essentially. And supposedly it's just a handgun, but you're shooting, it's almost like a full on, it feels like it should be a full on rifle / thing that's covering your whole arm because you got so much ammunition and any kind of ammunition you could ever imagine and power packs and all this other crap.
I can fire incendiaries, regular bullets, plasma, lasers, anything you want. Basically.
Anti-aircraft.
Yeah, he's like he's shooting down full on like intergalactic space marine planes, and like picture shooting down an X-wing with 9mm. Like that's what you're doing with this gun.
Yeah, so you say again, suspension of belief. This isn't supposed to be you're thinking too hard on it. This is just like, ooh, sexy gun, okay. So again, so plot hole. The gun that shouldn't have been able to missed him, but he gets the gun. The girl wakes up. He's able to get the girl to change into the bodyguard's outfit, and then he burns the whole house down so that they think that he assassinated the girl.
Yeah, he also he makes extra sure. That was the plot wholly avoided. How does this much older woman pass? So he burns her, mangles her face, and dresses her up in the woman's clothes.
Yeah, in the wedding dress.
Yeah, and then he hides Deborah's daughter in a brothel that he was frequenting, and she's basically the champagne girl there.
Yeah, the whores the whores that her cousins that Sven had been sleeping with are told she is not to be a working girl, but you have to pretend she's your cousin from out of town, but no one gets to sleep with her. And if I find out that you're whoring her out, I kill everybody. And the whores are like, okay, we'll go along with this.
And Sven's good friends with them because he's really good in bed.
Yeah,
Steven Seagal.
Yeah, Steven Seagal, and maybe Deadpool a little bit, with just amazing sex. I mean,
that kid from Game of Thrones, where he was so good in bed, all the
all the whores gave it for free. Yeah. So, anyways, Sven gets called back up to the Death's Head megaship where he's told, yeah, you passed another test, good job, and now we're gonna get into the story proper and have a real battle. Okay, so he gets sent down to another planet.
It's Islesville or something.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's basically just like a slum city kind of deal.
Yeah, and basically, so they're fighting their main nemesis, which is this AI run civilization, and they're being watched by another civilization called the United Free or something like that.
The U Free.
Yeah, and
there's the Enlightened.
Yeah, they're fighting the Enlightened. So the U Free is this. Basically, the U-Free is like United States, watching over two really small countries trying to kill, massacre, genocide each other, and just saying, we don't want to get involved as long as you follow our rules. If you don't follow our rules, we just annihilate all of you and make it a moot point that one of you would. But we committed genocide on two nations instead of just you guys committing genocide on one. So we get into this dropship. Dropship lands, and it's like a D-Day storming Normandy Beach style. Everyone's getting massacred. Sven runs into a bunch of mercenary kids that are we don't know what to do. Our whole squad is gone. All of our commanders are gone. So Sven says, follow me, and you might live. Probably not, but I'll use you as cannon fodder so I live. So they follow him, and they take out a machine gun nest, which then they start taking out pillboxes and flying machines and all sorts of stuff, and win the battle for the day, and they gain the beachhead. So yeah. And then he turns this band of now 4 or 5 people into his auxiliary unit, because he does, even though he's technically been promoted to second lieutenant or whatever.
Yeah, and
he wasn't given a command.
Yeah, and these they're auxiliary death heads, he calls them. Yeah. And they all have names, and about all you get as far as their characters is that some of them are women, and 2 of them are siblings.
Yeah.
There's Frank and Neen and a couple others.
Shill.
Yeah. So, they're just your standard soldiers. They all have little mini character arcs, but honestly, they're almost interchangeable. I know Frank is basically, she's really hot. That's her big power. That's about it.
Yeah, and Shill is a psychopath. And who's the geeky one?
Is it Neen?
No, that's the sergeant. Okay. When he turns to sergeant, that's Frank's brother.
Oh, that's right. Oh gosh, what was the last guy? Shiv, something like that.
No, I don't remember. Not important. So, and this is where Alex says the story starts to fall apart, because it's you kind of lose any sort of story.
Yeah, the world building gets really shaky here.
Yeah, because basically they take the city eventually. Sven basically wins the battle for the whole army by killing what they call them. What are they called? The uplifted, enlightened guys with the big almost things coming out of their heads.
Yeah, like the braided ones.
Yeah, they had a special name.
Oh gosh, I don't even remember. Yeah,
but basically, depending on how many braids they got coming out of their head, depends on how powerful they are, and he kills a middle level one and wins the battle.
Yeah, it's like a 5 braid, and he defeats it pretty easily.
Yeah,
and like he keeps getting like really horrifically injured, and it's mentioned like I don't know if it's to pad out the book, but it's like it's already established that he has a healing factor. But
kind of like Wolverine, but it's inconsistent on how fast he heals. Where they're basically depending on what the author needs it to how fast to be healed. They'll either take days or minutes.
He's essentially got this special plot armor that keeps him safe, and he's also I forgot to mention he has a fake arm too.
Oh yeah, he has the fake arm, which doesn't really come into play all that often. Other than to kind of make him stand out, which you think it would have made him, especially because they spent a whole chapter of the book on building him a brand new arm, and it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's kind of like that with the Kip too. Like the Kip just kind of fades away.
Yeah. Well, one thing I thought with the arm was he gets this fancy arm. He's going to that prison planet. I'm like, why would they let him keep a fake arm? Isn't that like prison 101? You take basically anything that can be used as helpful for you away.
Well, it was less of a prison and more of like a prison colony.
But again, you think the guards, when he's being taken prisoner, would have been like, yeah, that arm's coming off.
Yeah, maybe. They could, they'd be like, we're reacquisitioning this.
Yeah,
as part of
especially since because it was a custom-made arm by the Death's Head, because his old one was a piece of junk, and so that this thing would have been extremely valuable. And basically, we're going through the whole thing where all these prisoners were getting searched in every cavity multiple times, and all their stuff being stolen. And there's Sven with this giant arm that he's got a laser sword hidden inside of it. Even though it's making it sound like I swallowed it and pooped it out and then swallowed it again and pooped it out again. And
yeah, this book has no shame. It's great. But yeah, it's also really hard. Like this is the 4th major setting shift, and also like shift in cast of characters.
Which again, in military science fiction is fairly common. That I haven't read a lot, but all the ones I have read, they do shift settings and characters quite a bit.
Yeah, I know Starship Troopers did that too, because I read that one, and it does make it difficult to follow. And if you're watching the Starship Troopers movie, it's very different as well. But yeah, it can be hard to follow, and it definitely got me a couple times. I'm like, what is this place they're on? Who are they fighting? Why are they fighting? And again, with that mystery of like they don't really quite know exactly why they're there yet. They think it's a major military operation that Octavie wants to take this city for some reason and destroy the enlightened ones. So it's that's kind of how they're operating, why they keep going into battle, and a lot of this part of the story also devolves into them like going out and getting drunk a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah,
finding different bars.
Yeah, which makes sense because in war there's a lot of downtime, and so you got to pad out the novel. And one thing that I thought was really weird is the Ferox keep getting brought back in this story, and it's like almost like kind of like why do you keep bringing these creatures back? They're literally a desert animal on this one random planet that the Legion was on that had no spacefaring technology, but the Enlightened apparently love to use them as bodyguards, even though everyone thinks they're just dumb creatures that are the size of the Predator. And it's like, if these things are really so uncontrollable and stupid, why would you be using them as bodyguards and having them on this planet where it's actually very cold? Not ice planet cold, but they're basically, we're led to believe they're battling in like November, December type conditions, and these Ferox are just suffering because they're desert creatures. So it's like, just one of those things like no need to bring these things back repeatedly because they don't really serve to do anything other than just be, I brought these creatures in for a reason, just don't know what that reason is.
He's just kind of like keeping him on in case he writes himself into a hole and there's a chance that Ferox can help him out.
But yeah, and again, these enlightened things with the things are like a cross between the Predator movie Predator and a cyborg, where the braids coming out of their heads are basically indicating that they have been infected with a virus that's turning them into a computer-like thing, and they're controlled by AI computer cube things that are connected that are supposed to be very hard to kill. But every time Sven gets to one, they're already dying or committing suicide when he gets to them. So that he's able to capture the city and then learn their secrets. So he captures the city, and the auxiliary is allowed to stay banded, even though everyone's like, why are you keeping these people around? You're supposed to be our cannon fodder, not these people. And yeah, there's a lot of time spent in the city as they slowly lose ground to the Enlightened, because apparently this was just a feint for a bigger operation on another planet, and they've made it impossible for the Octo-V soldiers to escape by putting mines in the atmosphere, so that if anyone, this is Octo-V's own people, General Jack's mind, so their people can't get in. The Enlightened didn't do it. The Enlightened would say, yeah, just leave and we'll let you go, but they can't get away. We have a big giant battle for the city where Sven offers 100 tickets off planet to the mercenaries, and they, whoever survives goes outside the walls of the city and fights, gets to leave first 100 or whatever, and they defend the city with honor. And then they fly, and the ship is destroyed.
Yeah, out of like 500 mercenaries, I think
88 survive, and something like that. Doesn't matter, because they all die anyways. And then Sven goes on a month-long bender, because he's like, this is bullshit. He starts questioning everything, but this is written pretty bad, where he's not like questioning. It's just like, I'm gonna go on a bender because I'm angry.
Yeah, and he's like, it covers a 3-week span where he's just sitting there getting wasted.
Yeah.
But he can sober up real quick because he's 2% something else.
Yeah, and he heals super fast, and therefore it's very hard to stay drunk. So he has to drink a massive amount of alcohol constantly.
Yeah, so he's also Captain America.
Yeah. So we start losing the plot. The book's starting to drag at this point. It's like a 450-page book or something like that. It's a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's 350, I think.
Is it only 350?
Yeah. But even still, it's like, again, this is like the fourth major change, and we're like starting halfway through the book, so you kind of start losing your like this whole new cast of characters with a brand new setting. You're like, why should I care?
Yeah.
And Sven's not the most relatable protagonist you could have as a main character / narrator, because he's Steven Seagal. He's gonna show up, kick people's asses. Like, it's all just kind of like guy porn, like where we want that guy who's gonna get all the women and kill all the dudes, and that's basically what he is.
Yeah, and eventually they're getting to the point where it's like a Stalingrad type situation where they've taken the city, but they're losing the city, and it's getting to street battles. The major commits suicide. The colonel commits suicide, but only Sven and a handful of death's heads know he committed suicide. So Sven's pretending the colonel's still alive and running the whole operation, and he ends up killing a 7 or 9 braid Enlightened.
I guess the 7, and then like they find out there's like an 11 braid.
Yeah, but so he kills the 7 in a weird raid that he does outside the wire, but he can't keep the head, and so they eventually have to give up the city, and this random captain shows up, who's Death's Head captain, who's like, you can't do this, and he eventually finds out that the colonel had committed suicide, and it's just the bodies in this the war room rotting after weeks of sitting there, and the captain ends up committing suicide. Sven surrenders the army, and the U Free come in saying, okay, you can't just kill all these soldiers, mercenaries that fought against you. You have to take them to a POW camp. So the Enlightened do a death march to this random ocean on planet, and it goes on forever and a day. And then they get to these ships, and there's like 7 ships, but Sven immediately realizes only one's actually seaworthy, and they're kind of told that they're going to go to an arena where they're going to do death matches, like gladiator style, until they're all dead.
Yeah, well, they don't quite make it, though.
They don't quite make it. They do destroy the other 6 ships, but Sven says, you know what? A bunch of my auxiliary have snuck on weapons. They gain a new auxiliary member who's a sniper, female, and he's like, hey, let's take out this ship. So they take out the ship, kill an 11 braid. They get the geeky one that turns out is actually growing his own braids.
Also, the fight with the 11 braid lasts all of like half a page.
Yeah.
How disappointing.
Yeah, it does not much. But then they sent out a transmission saying, "Hey, this whole thing, the Enlightened committed a war crime. We demand retribution from the U Free. U Free come down. Sven hides the 11 braid head, and they take them, and they have these nanobots that are able to heal everybody up. By the way, the auxiliary death's heads, none of them actually ever die. Which again, he's like, they're supposed to be the cannon fodder. He's like, I'll kill you when you're useless. Kind of like in Starship Troopers, where the captain there goes around saying, "You're good to me till you're dead, then we move on," kind of thing. And you better hope you die because we're gonna use you up and spit you out. And then everyone around them is dying. Here, none of the auxiliaries are ever in any real danger.
Yeah, you'd think, like I said in the beginning of the book, when like all the characters die, all the Ferox and Sven's lover, like you'd think nobody's safe, but then everybody survives.
Yeah. So they go. The U Free takes them in, heals them up with these nanobots, and eventually they try questioning them, but because they have to use non-invasive tactics, they don't actually get any information. So they send them back to Octo 5, and they go on trial for desertion again.
Yeah. So the like his third desertion trial.
Yeah, and he eventually, Sven comes up with a plan that basically says, it's so top secret that if I told you, Octo V will have to kill you. And the judges, who are all death's heads, but none of them rank higher than colonel, like, oh crap, we better send them to the general. And he goes to the general and says, I got information for you, but you have to keep my auxiliary and me alive. And the general's like, it's not going to happen. And then Sven throws out a bag of the nanobots that used to heal him and says, will this buy our freedom? The general's like, no. Then he throws out the head of the 11 braid. How about this? And the guy's like, no. But General Drax, you can definitely see he's hesitating because he's like, what kind of super soldier do I have here? And is Octo V gonna string my balls up if I hurt his little pet? So he says, well, you guys aren't gonna, he plays it off like, oh, you're all gonna die anyways, but really they're just being decommissioned, sent back to the planet with the cousin whores and the daughter of the former governor, and they have a nice happy life where Sven gets together with his corporal there, the Neen's, the sergeant's twin sister, the one that, but they don't actually, you never get a sex scene with them, which I think was done deliberately, trying not to ruin it because so many sex scenes would just have cheapened that relationship.
Yeah,
but she's very protective when she realizes he runs a bordello and has a bunch of whores working for him.
Yeah, he's I don't know. He's there's like, he's not the best writing, but he's trying to convey some sort of relationship between like him and Frank, and it's there's like a weird like love-hate relationship going on there the whole time.
Do you ever watch Enemy at the Gate, the sniper World War II Stalingrad?
No, I always wanted to.
Okay, so there's a scene in there where the Russian sniper, which is based on a real story, but the movie version is definitely not reality. But there is a scene in there where the sniper has a relationship with a woman sniper, and they have a sex scene, kind of rushed and in the open, and because they're all starving to death in the cold winter. And that, if he had been able to write something, if this author was talented enough to write something like that, it would have worked great. But I think it was good he didn't, because he did not have that talent. I mean, he said the real life story of these snipers is not pretty, because basically they all die, even as because as Russia likes to do, is even our heroes are traitors, and eventually we'll just throw them into the gulag, which they kind of do.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, I digress. But so I get why he didn't do it, but then we find out that Octo 5 is lending him out to the U Free to do a mission for them, and that is going to be book 2, supposedly.
Yep. Was it a Death's Head Maximum Offense?
Yep. So I wouldn't recommend reading the next one. This one I think is worth the read. Alex, what are your final thoughts on the book?
I mean, I think I only ended up giving it like 2 stars. It's got a lot of problems. Its second half is a wicked mess. I don't know. It could have been a lot tighter in its writing, and it's I don't know. Like, you can turn your brain off and enjoy a lot of things, but if it's 100%, and that's not 100%, but if it's really mindless, then it's still not necessarily enjoyable. And a lot of the second half kind of felt mindless, bogged down with overly complicated, underexplained plot, and just a lot of filler with like, we're gonna go get hammered, or we're gonna go fuck bitches. Like, it's
I do think the unexplained stuff is fairly realistic, though, because if you think about it, he is a low-level soldier. He's not necessarily going to know a lot of stuff, even though he is quote-unquote special. He's just, they say, go take that pillbox, go on this mission, go do this, and come up with this strategy, even though you have no idea what the actual real end game is supposed to be. And he's just reacting to what's right in front of him. I mean, I guess that feels realistic in that, especially if you take the World War I, World War II mindset of, doesn't matter what my commander says, if they order me to go over the edge of this trench, even though I know I'm going to die, that's what I've been ordered to do. That's what I'm going to go do, because to do anything else is unhonorable. And you do get moments where Sven is told, your overlord is just another AI robot, and so you're fighting a bunch of AI robots for another AI robot. So why are you even bothering? And he says, I don't care what he is. You're insulting my exalted leader, so therefore you must die. So I do, again, I get that sense of World War I, World War II style obedience, where you don't question orders, you don't go against your leaders, no matter, even if you know that what they're saying is wrong. And if you can find a way to manipulate their orders in a way that's beneficial so you do survive, that's okay, as long as you kept the letter to the letter of their order in some degree.
Yeah, and like, I get that. I think if it was in more capable hands, like, yeah, you can keep that mystery. But yeah, like you said, this book is, I don't know, it's so focused on the action and the sex. It's like really hard to draw out the story. And like, there was a good mystery in there of like, what are they here for? And like, if it was better written, it could have like peeled back the layers better. Like, I enjoyed the action. I thought it was really well done, and all that. It was just it got to a point where it's dragging and it's really hard to follow. And
I've read a bunch, not a bunch, but a handful of these now, and I feel like that's pretty much what all of them do. They have this really exciting premise, but then they get towards the middle and they start to bog down because they've done 5 action scenes and bounce to a bunch of different planets, and they're just, okay, now what's next? And they don't have that ability to have a more solid story. So I think that's just a problem of the subgenre.
Yeah, it could be. It's like, yeah, you just, like you said, focused on the action, and then they're like, oh, we're gonna have, like, right before the third act, you got to have that little bit of a lull to make the third act kind of pop more, because there's gonna be a ton of action, but we're gonna give you that like moment where there's some character interaction and development where you can kind of establish relationships and give us a reason to care again. And then he got to that moment and it didn't really quite hit, I guess, because there's like, there's some sibling rivalry going on because one doesn't want her brother to be the sergeant and
the point man kind of thing.
And there's that sexual tension between Sven and Frank, and there's the other ones too that are there.
Yeah.
But there's I don't know, the characters come hard and heavy, and there's just not enough there to make you really want to care about them.
Yeah, I think for a beach style read, it's perfectly good. I don't think it's going to wow anybody by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not gonna get to the point where people are like, yeah, this is just terrible.
Yeah, I think if you're a fan of the genre, it's gonna be A-okay.
Basically, yeah, if you're a fan of the genre and most likely a young male, you're gonna eat this up.
Yeah, and like, there were parts where I was like, oh, this is actually really good. But
so Alex, who had the better first pick of the season? So it seems like we're starting off weak.
Yeah. So I think the problem with Cuckoo's Calling is the exact opposite. There's not enough action, and it's all character development, which, like, it's like you got 2 cool characters with Robin and Cormoran, but again, that also had a character development issue because there's too many characters and they're all the same. And then this one's very similar with that. There's too many characters and they're all the same. I'm guessing you would say Death's Head's better than Cuckoo's.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I guess I would agree in the end. I think Cuckoo's was just really boring.
So I think Cuckoo's should have been. I think part of it too is because Cuckoo's was J.K. Rowling, so you would expect more from her. Where this is, you're getting exactly what you signed up for. It's like just a action thriller versus J.K. Rowling, who is like, hey, one of the best-selling authors of all time, has all the money and influence in the world to bring in people and say, hey, let's make this book into something special, and it kind of flops. Where I said this is obviously a guy that's just like somehow manages. This is probably, if he was to put it out now, self-published book. This is not a novel that would normally catch one of the big publishers' eyes. Somehow he got lucky, won the lottery in that aspect back in the mid-aughts. But said clearly, they didn't put a lot of time and money into it, and it shows.
Yeah, it's just like there's it's 2000 or mid 2000. There's a high profile war going on in the U.S. and like military style books are selling really well. Like you see from that era a ton of like even nonfiction talking about the war in Iraq and things like that. So I think military sci-fi fits well with that, and I think it was a timely book. I don't know if it's timeless, but definitely AI has really come out since post-COVID, so that I think that kind of helps lend credence to this book. Gives a little bit of foresight, and it's just it's like you said, it's a beach read. It's not the be-all end-all of the genre. It's not defining the genre, but as a genre piece, it works fairly well.
Yeah. A couple questions that we haven't really touched on too much. The overshadowing government, how do you think they were portrayed? Does having these evil societies portrayed in a better light in today's society date this book?
It's very it's very like Bush administration era, where they're very secretive, and like you didn't have that what do you call it, transparency, because I think that kind of fits well with the writing. Is like I was complaining about like not really knowing what's going on, but like usually, and you said usually in war you don't know what's going on, so it. Like there's stuff like that works pretty well. The shadow government is, I think that's just a decent critique of politicians in general, and you're gonna see that throughout this book. And it's like that's always a fun little thing. And like sci-fi is a good way to like parody it on a much greater scale, because it's like, and so one nation is a like multi-planet, whole galaxy levels of deceit. So that's pretty fun.
Yeah, one thing I kept questioning myself what I'm reading is like they're doing this big battle over a city on one planet. I'm like, I think a lot of times a lot of sci-fi books struggle with this. Is like, because you think of our planet, you got 150 countries fairly well evenly distributed. Obviously some bigger than others, but you go for a battle on a city in a country like say in Europe, that's a big portion of that population, a big portion of that country. Now you put that on a planetary scale. Say we're gonna go invade Paris. So what does Paris mean to the rest of the world? That scale of this big battle for this one city really doesn't have the same punch when you're talking about we're battling for the whole planet. You almost need to say, hey, we hit this one city, but we also had simultaneously hit 26 other cities on this planet also to take this planet.
Yeah, and that's you kind of word it like that. It's pretty obvious that this is a diversion or just one small point of a much greater scale.
I mean, you think like Battlestar Galactica, when your first two mini-series episodes of the show, the Cylons took out all 13 planets or 12 planets at once, and basically all that escaped was a handful of ships that had data technology, which is why the computers weren't able to hack into it, because they weren't expecting to deal with basically analog. And but I said, to wipe out the human race of tens of billions of people, it was like, okay, we had to completely nuke 12 planets and a bunch of moon colonies and whatnot, all simultaneously. And here we are in this battle, galaxy-sized nation states that are we're battling over one city on one planet that means nothing. So just kind of says a lot. I think a lot of sci-fi struggles with that scale in general, but that kind of separates the good from the bad. I think in a lot of sci-fi, where the good ones can take that scale into consideration, kind of like Dune does a really good job of that. So yeah, we're battling over this one planet, but it's the only planet with this one life extension, magical abilities drug.
The spies.
Yeah, and it basically all of human society revolves around it. So that's why we can narrow it down to one planet. Or say like Star Trek, where they're like, we're just explorers, and then we're just a very small cosm in this whole universe. And so we discover, we're at the leading edge because we got the flagship, but there's all this other stuff. You realize you don't know what's going on behind us because we're just not focused on it. But every once in a while it bleeds through, and you're like, oh yeah, there's a much bigger universe out there. Where we say we're here, it's just like, we're just gonna focus on this tiny little thing and not question anything.
Yeah, it's trying to take this massive scale thing and just make it seem a lot more manageable. I think maybe David Gunn had to do that out of necessity for his writing abilities.
Yeah.
No knock against him. That's very difficult to do, and he was able to write a full story.
Oh, again, another changing mediums again. Going to Firefly, that Joss Whedon was able to do that very well, saying, hey, here's this bigger world. We're going to narrow focus down on this one little Firefly of a ship.
Yeah, that way you can kind of control the world building aspects of things, and each planet has its own quirks and stuff, and you can just kind of peel it back mini layer by mini layer.
Next question, though. How does Sven's engineered nature affect his sense of morality, loyalty, and personal agency? He's kind of just pushed along. It's never, other than the one time where he talks to Octo V directly when the Kip first goes in him, you get the sense that he's just kind of following along, and whatever agency he has is because he was able to find a loophole in whatever mission he was given. But he's still just completing the mission. It was just more of a, how can I survive this mission, more or less. Yes, but his loyalty is obviously and his morality is scene specific. Whatever is needed to move the plot point along.
Yeah, and he's he's got these moments where they give him some level of humanity where he's willing to defy orders in order to withhold, stand up for his own personal morals. We get that in the beginning when he refuses to kill the younger soldiers, and we get that when he saves Deborah's daughter, opts not to kill her because he gave his word. So he's very much, he's got his own set of morals that go with things that supersede any militaristic training that he's had, which gives him a level of humanity. Not quite enough to latch onto, but there's a little bit there, and you can kind of see it float through from time to time.
Okay. Last question here, Alex. This book is clearly geared toward a specific audience. What is your opinion on targeting the young male audience with books glorifying the over-the-top violence?
Quentin Tarantino would reject that question. I know there's studies that say getting it out in healthy ways, playing violent video games keeps you from being violent in real life. That's not really the case. There's no actual evidence to support that. But it's just it's if it gets people reading, I guess it's fine.
That was kind of my takeaway. I thought, what's different than, say, the women reading the romance or even so far as the smut books? It's all kind of slop in the end. They're not really gaining anything. But at the same time, they're reading, which is, even if you're reading something that's just really bad, you are gaining something from it, learning new perspectives, learning just new words and getting into other people's heads.
Yeah, I would want to trust the reader reading something like this to know this is not there might be a little bit of we were talking about metaphor in there and allusion to happenings in the world at the time it was written, but it's not real, it's fake. It's meant to be an entertaining story, as long as you're entertained by it and you're not being oh cool, I'm gonna go buy a laser gun and blow up a ship. I doubt there's very many people doing that, and even if someone would try and do that, I don't think it's David Gunn's fault. He's just trying to tell a fun story, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, but I think people do get disturbed by the violence because that's become more taboo as time has gone on, and where back in the 60s, something like this wouldn't have been questioned at all. It just would have been, yeah, okay, that's a interesting idea. Let's move on to the next thing, and just so it would have just been a whatever kind of thing. Whereas now people say this got out, somehow became viral, and people are like, everyone's talking about it, it would probably cause some controversy because, like I said, there's allusions to, you're cheering for the Nazi SS, you're cheering for evil computer overminds running human society, you're cheering for the massacre and genocide of whole cities and in whole species as like the Ferox there. So it's like, I think people would get upset about that, but I don't know if it's really doing any real harm by itself. So it's not like this is the manifesto that some psycho is writing to then send a bunch of bombs in the mail to other professors.
Yeah, exactly. It's there's a million entertaining stories out there. If you only market one style that is safe for everybody, like people aren't gonna want to read it. Like it's just like you want to have something that appeals to everybody, and this is going to appeal to a certain demographic, and that's perfectly fine.
So yeah, that's Death's Head by David Gunn.
Yes.
I think we've beat this dead horse long enough, Alex. What do you think?
I would agree. It's a entertaining read. Give it a go if
military sci-fi is your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Alex, you have the next pick, and I think you're actually going to try to upping your game this time.
Yes, this is not a blind pick. I only try and do one blind pick a season. I burn that one right away. This one is another murder mystery, though.
Yeah, Alex is in the murder mysteries right now.
Oh, yeah, I'm in the zone with the murder mystery. This one is by an author that we previously have covered.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where we've covered all the main authors that we enjoy, so we have to start going back to them.
Yep, yeah, we've collectively read about 20 authors. So we're just gonna keep repeating it.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy that.
This one is Cuckoo's Calling, character-driven mystery, kind of badly done. This one is probably the best example of a character-driven mystery I've ever read. It is
even better than Agatha Christie, Alex.
Even better than Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie's not character-driven. It's like the weakest point of her writing is the characters. They're all just cookie cutters. No, this one is it's very powerful. It's kind of fun. Like it's as dark as it is. Like the actual murder mystery takes a total backseat to just how the characters are interacting, and it's done absolutely masterfully, and it's incredibly powerful and moving. This book is Mystic River by Denis Lehane.
Yeah, so get ready for quite the fun ride. I think both Alex and I have started the books early on, and here Alex obviously read it once. I have not read it yet, but it's definitely starting off a lot more exciting than his last pick. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, this one it's gonna have some really heavy topics. Just so you guys know, it gets really dark. And we will be talking about Sean Penn because he's one of the actors in the movie version. Anyway,
he digresses.
Yes. But I'm excited to talk about it with you because I love Denis Lehane and I love this book.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So I guess that's it for this episode. If you want to get a hold of us, you can. We have an email, kendallbookworms@gmail.com. We have an Instagram, @kendallbookworms. You can DM us there. Please make sure you subscribe and like everything so you never miss an episode. We put an episode out every 5th and 20th of the month. 5th is our books that we've picked, and we'll let you know ahead of time what we're going to be reading so you can hopefully read along. On the 20th, we do a bonus episode where you just get to enjoy the ride, and we try to change up the format a little bit, keep it fresh, keep you guys guessing, and where we get a lot of our guest speakers going. See, we got YouTube audio only. If you prefer to listen there, go check it out. We're on all the major podcast apps otherwise. Please comment, follow, rate us on Apple and Spotify. We read all your comments wherever you put them eventually. I do all the real work on this, but I don't check everything regularly, but when I do, we do try to at least like and reply to those people that are being clever enough saying how much they hate us. Let's see, we do put up polls occasionally on Spotify. If, every once in a while I'll try to do one. Maybe we'll do one for this one. If we start getting a lot of responses, I'll start doing more. Alex has some books for sale.
Yep, Paul Plimpton and The Destroyer.
And those are going to be in the link in the description for Amazon. I have a Medium and Substack where I write book reviews on books that we don't cover in the podcast. So check it out. If any of the books get 100 reads on Medium, everything's free here, folks. We don't charge anything for this stuff. But if we get 100 reads on Medium, Alex will have to read that book, and we'll do it as a bonus episode. We have one book that's getting close. It's slowed down quite a bit, but it's right around Alex 60 reads so far. It's the Between Two Fires, so maybe Alex will have to read that one this season. Yep. Alex has also started a Medium.
Yep, same thing goes. If you read the same one of my articles 100 times, Joe will have to read that book.
Unless it's all smut books. So
unless it's one of the stuffed books, because he's already read those. Well, he hasn't read stuffed shorts.
But we cover that pretty hard, so I think we're good, Alex.
Make him read stuffed shorts, guys. We can do this.
But we're also on Goodreads. You can find us there if you want to follow us. I have hopped onto Storygraph. I'm still unsure about it. I don't know. It just seems not very good for connecting readers with each other, more of a keeping track of your own stats. I'll let you know more when I've investigated more. Did I miss anything, Alex? We're hosted by Podbean.
Yeah, I think you got it all.
I got it all. Okay. It seems like we get shorter and shorter every time, but I think I just talk faster and faster.
You're going to be like full auctioneer by season 5?
Pretty much. Let's get out of here, Alex.
Alrighty. Well, that was Death's Head. Tune in next time for Mystic River. Until then, I'm Alex.
And I'm Joe.
And this has been Bookworms.
Out.